Go Vandals.
Welcome back, Mighty Vandals, to Tubs of the Club, your University of Idaho affiliate on the Big Sky Podcast Network. Forgive us for the technical difficulties, dudes. Rough week. But it's not actually a rough week, man. I'm your host, Brian Marceau, joined by Trevin Pixley, fellow co-host. Trevin, heard you out of, well, I mean, look, we're going to talk about a battle in Eugene pretty quick. But I heard there's a different battle down in Lewiston you engaged in. How's it going?
Yeah. You know, when you get into a battle with an inanimate object, when you are not conscious yourself, you are going to lose, right? Especially when you're only fighting with your face or you're only fighting with your head. And Trebe lost a mano-a-mano fight with a locker, had a first seizure in a year, but that's okay because it's not a bad week, Brian, like you said, because we still get to talk about Idaho football. There's light at the end of the tunnel. No matter the situation, even if you have a seizure, even if you get your ass kicked by lockers, we're still here. We're still kicking ass. We're still taking names.
Yeah, and hey, look, later, talking about good things going on. Yeah, football season starting. Absolutely fantastic. And look, we'll rip the Band-Aid off of that because, yes, Idaho season starting. They're 44.5-point dogs at Oregon because that's just how these things go. We'll talk about that later. But another good thing, we're going to be able to talk about Snake River Stampede Canadian Whiskey later on, their show sponsor. Before any of that, Martin, you're on the ground in Moscow. How's it? What's it feel like there, man? How's it going?
It's going well. It's been nice to be nice to have actually be previewing a football opponent and not just here and just previewing a season or anything. I'm excited. It's a little chilly in Moscow, but I'm sure that'll heat up as it gets to the weekend.
Yeah, so Mark Triple-Piece in the comment section letting us know about another stalwart that we're dealing with, the light behind Trevin, but I don't know if that's anything we can do much about. So, or maybe Trevin can.
Well,
we're going to see, Mark, we're going to see producing in public.
Yeah.
I guess not.
You know,
so
pre-production, we'll attack that later on. I'll close my blinds a little bit more, but I feel like that's kind of my staple. Now that I'm here at the tips of the club.
Okay, so season opens for Idaho. Season opens Saturday. Big Sky Conference play kicks off Thursday. We'll talk about that and picking the Big Sky. But Saturday at 4:30 p.m., if you are in Eugene, Oregon, you are for a fact going to get to watch the Idaho Vandals take on the number 3 in the FBS, as Martin specified in the outline, University of Oregon Ducks. Now, I really reference the location of being able to watch it because if you're in the Northwest and you are not physically in Eugene, you actually might have some difficulty with being able to watch this game because, the Big Ten Network, which is part of what Oregon gets to be a part of because they've joined the Big Ten, has been blacking out regional athletic events. Now, there's other carriers who you can certainly watch the games on. So, for example, I'll probably go with a Fubo TV 5,000th free 1-week trial to be able to watch this game for me. But Martin, and maybe Trevin, you can help us out too. Can you let listeners know for a second, like, hey, if you're blacked out from cable, what else can you do to be able to watch this game? Because before acknowledging, it is hysterical that Oregon joins the Big Ten, and now we have to actually spend time talking about how you can watch an Oregon game, whereas Oregon State, not an issue. The Big Sky, when we're playing anyone who isn't in the Big Ten, not an issue. Easiest hell thing to explain. But Oregon joins the biggest conference in the world or in the nation, however you want to understand that. And suddenly we truly have to troubleshoot. How in God's name are you going to watch this fucking game?
I know other ways to watch it, like YouTube, or you can sail the 7 seas and pirate it. But
you mean YouTube TV, correct?
YouTube TV,
yes.
Like
you can't just log on to YouTube free.
You never know with some shady links, but yeah, YouTube TV is probably the best one. I know they have it. It's $79.99 a month. I can't remember the exact price, but it's not too bad a month. Or there might be, if you go to some streams out east, you might be able to find some links that might be able to get you the game.
Okay, so in short, if your cable provider has you blocked out, you're going to have to find online options. Trevin, you have any other recommendations for listeners who might want to watch the game, but truly they don't understand how to troubleshoot this?
Yeah, legitimate ones. I think Martin hit the nail on the head. I think YouTube TV is the best. If you're going to get Fubo TV, though, make sure you cancel your subscription. I have been notorious for not doing that with Fubo TV, and then it comes out with like a $250 charge. So you just got to be a little bit more responsible with your money, and you should be fine. But if I was you, and how I'm probably going to do it, I'm going to hit the 7 Cs, going to find a stream out east, kind of like Martin is saying, and just got to read between the lines there with that statement.
So Mark Trivialpiece says, hey, come to the club at 4:30. And that if I was not going to be in Canada, that's exactly what I want to be doing. Captain 58 in the comment section, Sling Blue with the sports add-on has Big Ten Network. Also Hulu is listed as according to Sports Illustrated as having this game. So,
sports.
So anyway, thank you, Martin. So anyway, in short, if your cable provider blocks you out, you got to go option B, and that's streaming. It's just the world we live in. But hey, we have talked about that part long enough. We have an actual game to talk about, Martin and Trevin as well. So look, we know week 1, you're scheduled, you're 44 and a half point dog on the road at Oregon. We know why these games are being played. The whole point of even signing this game back in the day was, Martin, I believe this is a $750,000 payday for Idaho. Am I correct in that number?
$740,000.
My bad. So Idaho's getting paid $740,000. That's the big thing to take away, is that this is going to fund a lot of athletic department stuff. Hopefully we have increasingly fewer of these games on our schedule. The schedule has moved in the right direction over the last few years, but this is vestigial, which is say this is an old contract. And the department needs money. That's why these games are played. But
the original game was signed way back in 2018, just to put how far out these games are signed.
Yeah, a long time ago, during some dark days. So, Trevin, we should probably talk a little bit about Oregon. But hey, spoiler alert, they're really good. So that's who Oregon is. But Oregon, Trevin, can you get us started on a little bit of Oregon Ducks football 101 for what Vandals are going to be running up against when we tune in, however we tune in at 4:30 this Saturday?
Yeah, no, you hit the nail on the head. Oregon is very good. I feel like since I was a child, this has been a good football team for as long as I can remember. Right now they have, this looks like 3 all Big Ten players, but, kind of the highlight guy that they got is Daniel Gabriel. He also won Big Ten Player of the Year. Believe he's a transfer from Oklahoma, correct?
Yeah, Oklahoma. He played in the Big 12 last year.
In the Big 12 last year?
He's been playing football for a long time. Like he started out as he started out his career as a starter at Central Florida, and he has 5 seasons worth of accumulated stats essentially as a starter in 2021 at UCF. Fewer attempts, but we all remember what was happening back in 2021. After doing well at UCF, transferred up to Oklahoma University last season, threw 30 touchdowns and 6 picks, 172 overall rating, 69% completion percentage.
Doesn't turn it over.
Yeah, back to you, Trevin. But that's the dude's understood as probably the best transfer quarterback in college football, and he's in his 6th year as a starting quarterback.
Yeah, this is probably the the perfect landing spot for him. I mean, you show up all that work on tape and 6 years of grinding through college football. I mean, you look at, I mean, Idaho had some guys where this is their 6th year in college football and their final destination is Idaho, or, they're starting at Idaho and they're trying to work their way up. I mean, this guy kind of had the ideal, transfer situation to get to Oregon, a big boy school, and, maybe take them to the promised land. Like, this is your prototypical guy that is going through the transfer portal and is, leveling up every time he's going through. And, he looks good. He's a guy that doesn't commit a whole lot of turnovers, makes good decisions. Seems like he has a pretty good amount of weapons around him. Tez Johnson, a wide receiver, also a all Big Ten selection. And they had 4 offensive linemen who didn't make the Big Ten team, but they received votes. So, that offense is going to be very, very stout again, Bryan.
Yeah, coming off a 2023 campaign, which, yes, quarterback changed. It's not Bo Nix anymore. He's busy starting in the NFL. But we already referenced Gabriel is going to step in and be, again, he's understood as the best transfer quarterback in the nation. 2023 Oregon scores 44 points a game, but only gives up 16.5 points per game. So they're talented on both sides of the ball. So that's your basics on Oregon. They score and they defend. Yeah. That's why they're number 3 in the FBS. So, Martin, we need to talk about what a win actually means for Idaho, because look, again, this is a matchup. It half feels like Idaho starts on a de facto bye week, because we get to be just stoked about the season starting. No one is expecting Idaho to win this game. So there's varying definitions to me about what win happens to mean. First one that I'm going to point to is a brain dead one. No season-ending injuries. No serious injuries that knock dudes out for the games that matter, when, look, everyone in the world has Idaho penciled in as losing this game. I mean, the coaching staff wouldn't say this, but in the press conference, Jason Eck, the way he enunciated this matchup is, for a team like Oregon to lose to an FCS team, or honestly to anyone, Oregon's going to have to beat themselves in some way. You're going to have to hope Oregon comes out sloppy. So with that as the subtext of what this matchup is, a win for me, first off, no injuries. Yeah. Second, and then Trev, I'm going to let you talk about what a win means. Idaho so far has only shown up for their FBS matchups in Jason Eck's 2 years. I expect this should be the ugliest of the matchups, but if Idaho can keep this competitive for, even a half, if they knew better than the half, that's fantastic. But the fact of Oregon, 6-year quarterback who's accomplished at that level, team can score, team has talent. If Idaho can show fire and keep this in doubt for around half a game, I'm going to call that a win. Trevin, tell me a couple of things that would let you consider this a win.
Well, a shining light for Idaho, if they were to hang into this game, is exactly what you said. No injuries. I think that's the most obvious thing for Idaho to come out of this. But you look at the spread, and you talk about how competitive Idaho has been against FBS opponents, right? Have we mentioned what the spread is for this game yet?
Yeah, 44.5, depending on where you look at it. Yeah.
Yeah. I think Idaho could cover that. I don't know. I think that 44.5, for how competitive they are in FBS matchups, if they could cover the spread, man, that's a good look, and I think something that's not completely impossible.
We're going to go a little bit further in talking about this matchup in a second. Martin, we need to talk about show sponsor real quick while Trevin takes care of look, we don't want anyone dying while they watch Tubs the Club, so we're getting that taken care of. But Martin, we got to talk about one of our show sponsors. Glad to have you back, Trevin. Looks like we're going with Hughes River, Martin, because that's the thing that I saw queued up in the background. So, look, here's the thing. Colin Scott Hughes, fantastic Vandal. He's been a Vandal family for a long time. And if you're a person looking for a great all-inclusive week-long vacation, do not look past your backyard. HRE has been Vandal-owned and operated since 1976, and they're going to take you on the vacation of a lifetime. If that means a multi-day trip down the Middle Fork of the Salmon, the main Salmon River of no return, or the Selway, That's it. If you want one of their special trips, like the one to see the Perseid meteor shower, you got that too. Honestly, look, it doesn't matter if you're a big group or just a family who wants to have a vacation you can talk about for the rest of your life. Give Colin a call. The trips are all inclusive. They're fun as hell. Call them now to get scheduled. 406-540-4450 or check them out at hughesriver.com. So in the comments section, a couple of things we got running is, hey, new uniforms just dropped on Twitter, which Martin is getting up. Thank you for getting those up, Martin, because there's no way I can do that on my own. Kind of like the new uniforms. Listeners, this isn't going to be helpful, but viewers, you can see it.
It's very minimal. I'd say it's very minimal to me. Yeah, it's not as busy as last year, as the previous away uniforms they had.
Like a teeny bit. I think a teeny bit more. It's just like little more, to me, a little more embroidery around the numbers. It's white uniforms, the black numbers that have a Vandal
gold trim.
Gold. Yeah, they've got the gold trim. Vandals and script on the helmet, numbers on, of course, the chest, back, and shoulders, just Idaho and block letters on front. I think that looks pretty nice. We've also comment section, also Captain 58. I am putting it into the universe and expect nothing in return. Actualize victory in your mind, friends. New unis are clean as fuck. And run, Rye, run. Please, no script on helmet. Run. I'm different. I actually like the script on helmets, but one of the things I like Idaho does helmet-wise is, like, if you don't like the script, you're going to get grumpy.
The logos they have different helmet logos they can put on the side. They can change those out pretty easily.
I actually love the Idaho script on the helmet.
The one they wore for the Montana State game?
Yes, I thought they did that for Weber last year. But okay, let's run through a couple more things, because to me, for this game, Trevin, is one, hey, it's a celebration that football season's starting. So just tune in and support Idaho. I know that I've heard coaches 1,000 times at the FCS level talk about how part of what the allure of these games is for the athletes on the FCS teams. They get to go compete in an environment that it's hard to explain to people, even though they're 44.5-point dogs. It's going to be a sold out stadium, loud as hell, with more within a gigantic stadium compared to like the Kibbe Dome at 16,000. Hey, I get that, but something I want to bring up is two deeps mean varying things depending on what coach is posting them. Like a Bobby Houck 2 deep, completely worthless. Like that, and that's his point on publishing the 2 deeps. Idaho, as of today, has not published a 2 deep because Oregon has not published a 2 deep. So Jason Eck is simply returning the favors at this point. So another thing that I'm watching that I think we can watch for is I think we're gonna get to see who very likely is going to be coming in those starting positions in some of those contested groups. Like for me, and I'm talking about this group. This is my own interest, Trevin. I'll let you talk about other groups you care about. The young linebacking room, how that actually sorts out to me is intriguing. We know that Jackson X can get run. We know Dylan Lane. We've been hearing about Zach Johnson for a while. He's going to be a redshirt freshman from Lake City High School. We know that for a fact is going to be part of it. But we also have Matthias Bertram, who's he's kind of bouncing between strong safety and linebacker over the last couple of years. But like actually seeing what that rotation is going to be, that's something I'm looking for, because linebackers are it's the youngest defensive group that we're looking at. By the way, Isaiah King too is a guy who looks like he very well could be a starter, but we just covered more than 3 potential starters. So we're going to see I think we'll get to see first shot at what that composition is actually going to be. Trevin, in terms of 2 deep speculation, you have any group you're paying attention to?
No, I think linebackers are a good one. If you just had to, in your mind, who do you think would be the 3? Because that is a tough group to think of. Because what you got Jackson probably in the middle. Yeah, and then you'd probably the 2 outside. Man, that's a tough race there, because I really think they like Johnson a lot, and I think he's a kid that looked good in the spring and looked good when I, had eyes on him towards the end of my Idaho beat run. I think he might get one of them. And Matthias is just kind of getting buried, but you would think you'd be hard pressed to not play him in that situation, maybe over like a Dylan Lane or a Isaiah King? What are your thoughts there?
Well, I mean, that's to me. I think Janicek's going to be there. I also think we're probably going to get a decent amount of rotation, because with the goal of guys staying healthy. But the other thing that I'm looking for in this game is, look, it's not Idaho State, and this is not what we're going to extrapolate into the season. But how is that O-line going to show some promise in giving Jack Lane some time? Like, the story of Jack Lane playing in this game is, it's intriguing. He's from Lake Oswego, I believe, so it's a homecoming of sorts. He's probably going to have some friends, family there for sure. He's going to have some people there that he grew up playing against, and also just people, who we talk about homecomings for a reason. So first shot of seeing Jack Lane playing against a very good football team, but I'm intrigued to see how that looks. But the biggest thing is that O-line and what type of time they're going to be able to buy. I believe in Idaho defensively being able to maybe slow Oregon down for a little bit. I mean, again, this is a very good FBS offense, but Idaho has a lot of continuity on the defensive side of the ball. I expect we're going to see those moments of Idaho against Oregon where we see why Idaho is projected where they're at, top 8 nationally. But the questions that are going to really determine how this season goes that feel on the unknown side are, is that O-line going to be able to buy Jack Lane enough time? And is this team offensively are they going to be as good as we believe they could be? And I bring that up because, hey, news out of Oregon State. Giovanni McCoy is the Oregon State starter. Now, why do I bring this up? I mean, hey, congrats to Giovanni McCoy. When people transfer out, it does nothing but help Idaho for them to leave Idaho and play. But I bring that up because we've hit this point over and over again last season that during the second half of the year, Giovanni McCoy was not that productive at Idaho. Like, it wasn't bad by any means, but Idaho did not break 30 with him starting after Cal Poly. And he just won the Oregon State job. So I bring that up because it makes me just a little nervous about the O-line. Like, Jason Eck's been open about the O-line not making the step last season. He was hoping that they would. But now it makes me like, next year quarterback, instead of Monday morning quarterback, it makes me wonder, like, a little uneasy of like, okay, now he just won that starting job at Oregon State. And even though he didn't look that like off the charts at Idaho second half, does that mean like the O-line was actually even worse than we understood last season? And it was just his legs and that was it, which then makes that's the part that makes you feel uneasy of okay, if the O-line was even more of an issue than we've talked about on the show last year, how are we going to keep Jack Lane upright? We're going to get our first preview of what that actually is going to mean in week 1, which is look, and it's not going to matter in the same way with some of the worst teams on Idaho's schedule. But if you're Jason Eck, if you're the fans who saw a top 8 team last season, there's 5 games that are really going to dictate what playoffs actually mean for Idaho. Mm-hmm. Talking about games like Wyoming, talking about games like Albany, talking about UC Davis, Montana State, Weber State. Those games and how Idaho does in those is really what's going to differentiate this team from fringe playoff to seed and, playing for more home games. And the O-line is probably going to be what really dictates that. This is going to be our first shot at seeing, can we find moments where that O-line's showing the potential that could be a solid Big Sky offensive line.
Yeah, and I'm also curious too. I see in the comments mentioning the running back room, but I'm also intrigued on the receivers and the pass catchers, and just seeing who Jack Lane kind of builds that chemistry with the pass catchers, because it's going to be like Jordan Dwyer is going to be the number 1, but I think outside of him, it's really going to be kind of who's it going to be? Who's going to be the second, third leading receiver for the Vandals.
We do believe at this point we have no reason to believe anyone but Mark Hamper is the number 2 receiver. But I believe what you're also talking about is the actuality of where those passes go to, where those receptions go to.
Exactly. And then probably the tight ends are going to be a big factor. I mean, you guys have talked about it. I talked about it a lot. That's probably where a lot of the passes are going to go to. And honestly, they might go to the running backs a lot more this year. So it'll be interesting because I think realistically in like the top 3 or maybe top 5 receiving leaders by the end of the year could feature a couple of running backs or like a couple of tight ends and a running back and maybe just one receiver. So, it's going to be interesting because, if Idaho is going to be playing a team, like then it's going to be a good test with Oregon because, they got these FBS level defensive backs, a quality defense to see if these wide receivers on the outside can create the necessary separation and do it in enough time so Jack Lane can dish the ball out. It's gonna be crazy to see. That's a position that needs to grow, and it needs to grow fast in order for Jack Lane to have targets to get to quickly. Because if this offensive line is as bad as it was last year, or it hasn't made those kind of steps, and if he doesn't have the targets, then it's going to be an even slower year. Because at least last year, Giovanni had Hayden Haddon and Jermaine Jackson.
Yeah. So. Look, I think we are closing in on needing to just go to game predictions because, hey guys, listeners, I'm not trying to skip over this, but look, it's be real for a second. Number three team in the nation. If Idaho wins this game, it would be probably thought of as one of the more historic upsets.
Would you put this? I'm gonna say, might be spoiler prediction, but if or when this happens, would this be bigger or worse, bigger or little lower than App State over Michigan?
I think you'd be right in the same ballpark. Now, you might say a little bit less because we're now in the era of the playoff where teams can lose a game and rebound. Now, losing to an FCS team, a little bit different when you're talking about the Oregon situation. But full disclosure, I mean, look, we talked about the TV situation earlier, and I got to tell you, that just fit right in perfect with me, except that it hits Idaho because I don't really give a shit about Big Ten or the super conferences. I just don't. I care about Idaho. The Captain 58 says bigger App State was number 1 in the FCS poll. Michigan was number 5. So, okay, there you go. I'm going to go with Captain's take. This would be a relatively bigger upset, but it would be seismic. What we're talking about. This would be a tectonic level upset if Idaho were to beat this Oregon team. So what I'm looking for, I just want to be able to come away and see those moments where Idaho shows that the talent we believe that they have, both returning defensively and with the faith we have and what we've seen out of guys like Jack Lane, what we've seen in each of the 2 years from Jason Neck and co. I just need to see enough of those moments in this game to let me say, sweet, moving on. Glad we got the paycheck. Now I'm interested in Wyoming. I want to see enough out of this game to let me know that Idaho and Wyoming is going to be a competitive as hell matchup.
Yeah, I agree with that. There's no, hate to say it, there's no way Idaho wins this game, but there's a lot of chances this game can be competitive. Jason Eck, you look at all the FBS games that he's had before, he's won one. And all of the games that he's played in the 2 years that he's been here against FBS level opponents have been close, have been tightly contested. And I think the only one they lost by multiple scores was Indiana. And even that one, they were up at halftime. And maybe I'm remembering the score of that wrong. But, they've done good against this quality of opponent. And I think, while they probably won't win this game, I think the way that they play it is going to shock some people. I really do.
Yeah, I think we're ready to predict scores because we have Big Sky Pick'em to get to. And, oh, God. Martin, I'm going to let you lead off with the score prediction, followed by Trevin.
Oh, fuck, I don't know. My Husky fandom says pick Idaho, but my gut heart tells me Oregon. I'm going realistic here. Oregon by 45-10.
Okay, so you're saying Oregon, but Idaho covers a 45-point spread. Okay.
Yes.
Trevin.
I'm picking Oregon. Final score 58-28.
That's a lot. Okay, that's another cover for Idaho. Man, 58-28 is a lot of points. So I'm going to go, look, obviously going with Oregon to win the game. And I'm going to say something like 45-17, but it's close to the first quarter and a half. So, okay, that's how it goes, guys. Hey, tell us in the comment section.
For Dallas too, just so we can kind of tank his predictions for the season.
Yeah, Captain 58 has Idaho by 36-35. Yeah, we can make one up for Dallas, but he texted me anyway. He's picking Oregon. He forgot to send me a score. Dallas, you're forgiven. Look, before we get to Big Sky Pick'em though, there's something we need to talk about that you can use as a pick me up if you happen to be struggling with this Idaho Oregon game as a week one. Which no one should struggle with this. It's football season starting. Yes, Idaho has a week of something rough to start with, but this is the best time of the year, guys. Get on the bandwagon. And you should also be getting on the Snake River Stampede Canadian whiskey bandwagon. Look, the thing about Snake River Stampede is it's pretty much the best Canadian whiskey that you can get in Idaho State liquor stores. Different from virtually every other option. Snake River, it's a blend of 3 grains, 80% corn, 10% rye, 10% malted barley. That itself is going to set us apart from most Canadian whiskeys. Second, it's got a double barrel finish. Starts in first fill bourbon, and then it is finished in Oloroso sherry casks, which both of those agings give it distinct flavors that absolutely make this stand out in the Canadian whiskey market. If you want to take it up a notch and celebrate either the paycheck or the result, Snake River Stampede 1915 small batch. It's aged an additional 2 years, has the same grain composition. Its finishing is first fill bourbon and then ex-Canadian rye whiskey casks. You can't go wrong either way. Grab yourself a bottle of Snake River. It is time to pick the Big Sky. And look, the way we're going to rotate through each time is we'll go Martin, Trevin, me. And the Big Sky season starts, again, like we're recording on Wednesday, August 28th. The very first game is Thursday, August 29th. So, guys, I'm going to jump down on the outline. Sacramento State at San Jose State. Now, San Jose State has had they haven't lost to a Big Sky school in a while, but the Mountain West, including last week, Montana State beating New Mexico, every single year for the last three years, Mountain West team has lost to Big Sky. Martin, what's going to happen? Sac State, San Jose State.
I think it's probably close, but I'm going to say Ken Noymontello, whatever his name is, the former Navy head coach, wins. San Jose State.
Yeah, San Jose State.
I'm going to go San Jose State as well. And I'm going to say it's close. I'm giving score predictions for all these. I don't give a fuck. It's going to be 24-13, San Jose State.
Yeah, so I'm going to go San Jose State, but what I'm paying attention to for Sacramento State is that they're a ranked Big Sky team. San Jose State, not necessarily a good football team, but Sacramento State kind of finished. Had they not picked up that playoff win against North Dakota, Sacramento State's season would have been understood as honestly just a complete dumpster fire second half of the year. Recent article out of Sacramento Bee is painting head coach Andy Thompson as going with choosing a 2 quarterback system again, reminiscent of what happened a couple of years ago with Troy Taylor. The 2 quarterbacks being Caden Bennett, senior, and redshirt freshman Carson Conklin. Now, what's interesting about this mix is Caden Bennett is not a terrible passer at the Big Sky level. He's a solid passer, very good runner, on the smaller side, but very good runner. Carson Conklin is more of your pure passer, but it's not the same blend that we had a couple years ago where it was Asher O'Hara, clear running quarterback, and then a clear passing quarterback as well. These are 2 guys that have some overlapping skill set. So exactly what this is going to look like is the intrigue to me with Sacramento State. But of course, got to pick San Jose State at this point, especially if you're not that high on Sacramento State. Comment section is almost universally going with a San Jose State pick, except no, Captain 58 is going with San Jose State. No one in our comment section believes in Sacramento State. So, Patty, you're spreading that gospel. Well done. Idaho State at Oregon State. Martin.
This year, we're not going to forget Oregon. We're not going to forget the Idaho State game. Sorry, McLean and whatever the podcast in Pocatello is called. Oregon State wins this by 3 scores.
Well, Oregon State's quarterback hasn't played Idaho State very much in his career. They usually left that up to Jack Lane. So, a little unfamiliar opponent for Giovanni McCoy. So that might play a factor for the Beavers as they play the Bengals. So with that being said, the final score will be 49-3, Oregon State.
Yeah, going Idaho State. Oregon State, I think, is a rough matchup for any team right now. That's lower than Oregon State, because that team is going to be, they're like WSU. I think they're going to have a chip on their shoulder that transcends other seasons. First year coach Trent Bray is running Oregon State, so and Thomas Ford's over there too. So for former University of Idaho runnings back coach, special team coordinator. Good luck, Giovanni. Idaho State, I think they're going to get killed because I don't think defensively they have what it takes to keep a game like this close. The intrigue is going to be, are we still going to see is Cody Hawkins going to have any sort of ability to increase Idaho State's ability to run the ball a little bit as a changeup? Backup quarterback Hunter Hayes is the leading rusher returning from last season, who was also the leading rusher for Idaho State. But hey, Jordan Cook is at times looks like he might have the most talented arm in the Big Sky. So Idaho State's a fun team. It's going to be a rough week, but yeah. Moving on, we have UC Davis at Cal.
Cal.
You answered that too quick, Martin. I couldn't think of many quips. I'm gonna go with Cal as well. Don't have anything too crazy. I'll keep it close though. I'll say 28-17. Cal beats UC Davis.
Hunter Hawkins in the comments section. Haven't heard from you for a while, dude. He says Charlie Regal is smart to get out of there, meaning Pocatello, meaning Idaho State. You know what? I don't think anyone in Pocatello really misses Charlie Regal. So I'm going to agree with everyone, including Mark Trivelpiece, saying Cal with the win. So the Idaho intrigue is Marcus Harris is playing in that game. The Big Sky intrigue is UC Davis has been, look, it's first-year coach Tim Plow, and Hunter Rodriguez, quarterback, was very good 2 seasons ago, took a step back last season. Of course, preseason Offensive Player of the Year, Land Larison is there too. UC Davis does have size, and Cal is a team that good Big Sky teams have been competitive against, for those of us who remember Idaho and Cal last season. But yeah, I think you have to go with Cal. Anyway, although it's a weird situation for Cal, weird to think of them as ACC. I don't know what kind of momentum that team has, where they're at. And, when I reference Oregon State having a chip on their shoulder, I think of Cal. I think it's kind of the opposite. Next game, by the way, everyone's in the comment section is picking Cal, although Patty says, I think this one's pretty frisky. Cal gets a little scared for half, then pull away. Okay, that sounds fine to me. After next, we have Northern Colorado at Incarnate Word. Finally, an FCS on FCS matchup. Martin, you are one of our most avid Northern Colorado fans.
Yes, that is true, but my heart says Incarnate Word.
I will be going with Incarnate Word. Fucking, we're going to go 27-3. Pretty easy.
Yeah. So, hey, in comment section, Gary Grabo, guarantee I butchered that last name, dude. Send Cal 31, Davis 17, spread is 20 Larison. It's going to be fun to watch. I say that because, look, I'm like Patty. I think Incarnate Word's going to win this game pretty big. The intrigue on the Big Sky level is Northern Colorado. Look, Mark Trivelpiece is saying Incarnate Word because Northern Colorado still sucks. Okay. So, Mark, you're not wrong. What the intrigue with Northern Colorado is that they played some close games. However, they were all home games last year. And the issue Northern Colorado had was that they're like the worst offense any of us have ever seen in the history of football. So they've got a new OC. If they can score a few more points this season, that could be a team that scares some teams. I mean, Idaho had a scare against Northern Colorado. But until we see those points on the board, the rebuild's a pretty big hill for Ed Lamb and co to have to climb. So, yeah, Incarnate Word for sure is who you should pick. But I'm not yet completely putting Northern Colorado to bed. Like, I think there's a chance they're the best of the awful teams in the Big Sky. Cal Poly at Martin, you have this abbreviated at USD.
University of San Diego.
Thank you. Thank you. There's a few. So Cal Poly at San Diego.
I'm going to give it to the fighting Paul Wolves.
That is you saying Cal Poly.
Yes.
Really? I'm going to give it to San Diego. I think I've been on the Cal Poly is trash forever, and I will die by that sword. So that's what we're doing.
Yeah, Cal Poly is well, we know nothing about Cal Poly other than they were absolutely terrible last year, and they were one of the worst defenses in the history of defense that we got to see last season. They will have a new starting quarterback. I have no news on who it is because if you Google Cal Poly quarterback, the most recent hit includes Sam Heward transferring to University of Utah to be the number 3 quarterback, and Division III transfer Jason Atkins coming in. So I don't know anything about Cal Poly, but I gotta say, San Diego has been pretty bad for a while. Bo Kelly's the guy returning quarterback for Cal Poly with the most reps, although Jaden Jones a couple of years ago did look promising prior to blowing out his knee. But San Diego is non-scholarship. They've been they've been moving their way down the last couple of years, even in the non-scholarship world. So Cal Poly, but I expect this is close because Cal Poly, until proven otherwise, still terrible. We already talked Sacramento State. So now this is there is some intrigue, and maybe we can get some in-depth observations real quick in the comment section from Patty. Monmouth at Eastern.
Eastern.
I know nothing of this Monmouth, whatever. So I'm going to go with Eastern Washington.
Yeah, Eastern Washington, they've got a lot to prove. Patty's saying Eastern wins this, but it's a close game. The story of Eastern is we know, look, they've got offensive talent for sure. They have probably the best, based off of production, probably the best returning quarterback in the Big Sky right now, Kekoa Vesperis. He's a guy he can absolutely move the ball both with his legs, but was the most productive returning quarterback. Patty says, I think of Monmouth's offense is similar to UC Davis. I'm going to go with Eastern Washington. I don't know if Monmouth is quite good enough to really make Eastern pay defensively. However, Eastern's got a new defensive coordinator. Fingers crossed, if you're an Eagle, that it's a new day. Patty's saying that the Monmouth QB is Derek Robertson, Maine transfer, who is very similar to Miles Hastings, which Patty, you're saying, hey, solid passer, doesn't light the world on fire, a relatively tough dude. So I'm going to go with Eastern. And I mean, part of me is rooting for Eastern because I told you guys earlier, I don't really give a shit about the power conference stuff anymore. I pretty much only care about the Big Sky during football season. And if Eastern's not playing Idaho, I'm probably rooting for Eastern for the most part. Ron Lowney saying Eastern has to win this year or everyone gets fired. Reasonable point. Gary Graybow, if Monmouth had a QB that went to Virginia, I'd take Monmouth, but he's gone and the ugly red turf is the difference. Patty saying Monmouth also has a really good running back in Sohn Natoa, a 5'11", 235 bulldozer. But hey, if you're wondering for a game to watch this week that is not Idaho in your spare time, Eastern Monmouth, not a bad one to look at.
Patty, I believe Eastern's game is on Thursday, correct? That's tomorrow. I'm pretty sure I saw it's tomorrow, like a late kickoff tomorrow.
Oh yeah, you're right. The Eastern game is tomorrow. My bad, guys. I hope I didn't spread any fake news earlier. But yeah, the Eastern game. I got an email from Eastern. Patty's saying it's tomorrow, Thursday at 6 p.m. Their tickets are $5 for some seats at that game. So if you could go to that, man, $5. It's as close to giving tickets away as you can. Hope it works for Eastern. We're gonna skip this game. Lincoln at NAU. We're all picking NAU. We're not talking about Lincoln. I'm absolutely over. I'm done with how many years we have to talk about Big Sky teams scheduling a school that I don't even know what affiliation they are.
They're not even a D2. They're just an enigma.
Okay.
They just whatever level, they're whatever the vibes are telling them.
We have talked about them too much. Weber State at University of Washington, Martin.
Go Huskies.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the University of Washington here as well.
Well, so hey, you obviously you're going to go with Eastern Washington. But I do think it's worth keeping in mind. Weber State they're going to have moments where they look good. Defensively, I'm buying Weber State stock right now. So they have Braden Wilson, defensive end, led the Big Sky Conference last season with 16.5 tackles for loss. They've got Kamari Bailey, who we saw him be productive at Idaho, playing on the other side of that line. So there's intrigue. And hey, Richie Munoz, we get to see him as a full-time, full-year starter for Weber State. That's a team that I think they're going to put some points on the board. I think they're going to be a tough team week in, week out this season. But University of Washington is uniquely in look. I mean, they're good. So in the comments section, Patty's saying, I'm curious what this game looks like. Crew had 76, Weber 30, Fuskies 28. Patty, I think Weber could be really good. UW loses almost all their production, new staff. Yeah, like you're right, Patty, but still, like that's a big. This isn't the
2021 Huskies. I
will tell you though, to Patty's credit, I would much rather Idaho be getting paid $740,000 from this University of Washington team than this University of Oregon team. But that's not the world. That is not the world we live in. Top 5, Portland State at Washington State.
Wazoo, but it's close by Wazoo by 4.
Wazoo, but it like goes into overtime or some shit. Like Portland State will be up, or Wazoo will be up 21. Portland State will rally back, and Washington State finds a way to win in overtime.
Did you guys read the outline and think the number 5 next to Portland State was their ranking?
It's the Cougs. No. It's the Cougs. They're going to
Coug. No, I'm with Patty. He says, I think WSU wipes the floor with them, dude. Yeah, I think WSU is going to have a chip on their shoulder this year. I think they got something to prove. I also think WSU is going to be, I mean, hey, I might lose us some subscribers at patreon.com/Tubs Club right now. But WSU has become a niche team now for me to pay attention to. So, no, I think that Portland State is going to get their asses kicked. Dante Sachere, quarterback, he can run for sure. Not that great a passer, but this is a long year for Portland State. And Portland State, I don't think they're dynamic enough offensively for a team to be able to play with a team like Washington State. Mark Chivelpiece, no Cougar at WSU by 35. Missouri State at University of Montana, another FCS on FCS matchup, Martin.
Couldn't this be an FBS game? Because technically Missouri State's winning this. Consider winning this. Missouri State's transitioning next year.
Well, they are next year, but we're not talking 2025. We're talking 2024.
Missouri State, fuck the Grizz.
The Missouri Valley Power, Missouri State. So Martin, look, everyone saw this coming. Trevin, Missouri State, Montana.
I'm going Montana. I'm going to chalk that one up.
Oh, yeah, for sure. What you're paying attention to for Montana is one, man, that Montana schedule. I would kill for the Montana OOC. All FCS games this year. Bobby Hauck released the Montana 2 deep. It's, of course, worthless as a document, but no official starter has been named at quarterback for University of Montana. So in theory, it still is a Kealili Ayat or Logan Fife transfer from Fresno State. Fife has more game experience, but went 3-3 in his years at Fresno State, which would be underperforming compared to the rest of Fresno State's last 3-year run. Kealili Ayat, I mean, look, fans feel about Ayat in Montana the same way Idaho fans feel about Jack Lane. Saw the guy in limited run last season, but when they saw him play, he looked good. So that's what I'm paying attention to. Montana's good. They return a ton of talent. I'm curious to see how that train keeps rolling after last year's national runner-up finish. Montana State at Utah Tech, hot off a road win over. Look, Montana State beat New Mexico last week in the only Big Sky game. Montana State should have beat New Mexico by about 20 points. That game was close because of two fumbles returned for a touchdown. Yeah, 2 defensive touchdowns. I made the joke in our Discord. Again, one of the benefits of joining #OnlyTubs is the Discord server, best online place to chat Vandal Sports. It is not remotely close.
And the game threads are lit.
Yes, they are. Patreon.com/Tubs the Club. Montana State should have beat New Mexico in a blowout, and they ended up winning in one of the more dramatic, like a late game comebacks you're going to see, especially considering Ron Lowney in the comment section. He was pretty damn happy. Montana State isn't going to beat you with bombs through the air. It's a 93-yard touchdown run that took it from a 2-score game to a 1-score game. And Montana State was down their number 1 running back and down 3 starting offensive linemen. So that is a long way of saying, no, dude, Montana State's going to roll over Utah Tech. So I screwed up that order of picking. We'll fix that for the next ones. Martin, Montana State, Utah Tech.
Montana State by probably 30.
Montana State by 31.
Jesus Christ. All right. Martin, he got you, dude. He got you. Patty in the comment section saying Tommy Mellott, quarterback from Montana State, needs to learn to identify blitzes, and says Adam Jones, absolute stud for Montana. So for Montana State. And Patty's saying he was impressed with the MSU defense, to be honest, which they're good, man. They had a lot of guys they're replacing. Mark Triple-P's picking Montana State by 33. And we already talked about Idaho, Oregon. So we have officially picked the Big Sky. There is a little more Idaho football news we need to talk about. Good news, bad news. The good news is there is a Hatton on an NFL roster. Hogan Hatton, long snapper, signed by the Detroit Lions. Congrats, Hogan. Hogan had a really interesting story to me. In his time as a Vandal, he was recruited first as a linebacker, then converted to a long snapper, and clearly that was the right call because he went from not being a starter as a linebacker to he's in the NFL as a long snapper. Congrats, dude. The Hattons were fantastic Vandals. Every Hatton that I met, hey, Jack Hatton on the basketball roster is the first NIL signing by the club. So, hey, Mark Triple-Piece, again, kick-ass Vandal guys. But Hayden Hatton is the bad news. He did not make – he was one of the final cuts for the Seahawks roster. So, Hayden Hatton's NFL journey is still TBD. We're going to see where the dude lands. But Hogan's on a roster, guys. Martin, listeners
I
have
might have
no
looked
idea.
at some work stuff that I shouldn't have.
Okay.
Yeah, non-show stuff.
Yeah, so like Mark is saying, Hayden's story isn't over. He'll make a name for himself. Hey, co-signed, 100% co-signed. It's just at this point, I cannot tell you the next place he's going to land. Fingers crossed for him. Would have loved him to land in Seattle, the Northwest connection. But look, we still got 3 Vandals on NFL rosters as of this moment. So, hey, that's a big deal. I guess, Martin, I'm going to bring you in because, look, we're almost at the end of the show. It's one of the few that's going to easily finish it under an hour because it's Oregon, whatever, week 1. This is how it works. Martin, you tell us your football plans for this week.
I'm probably going to be watching Oregon, watching the Huskies. Well, it's just going to be watching football all weekend, probably playing some CFB 25 in there as well.
All right, Trevin, let us know yours.
Well, I'm going to be going over to my dad's house and watching the Idaho game. And if he can, he's probably going to put some money on it because we just got back from the Northern Quest Casino. And he all he did the whole time he was there was sports bet and play the roulette wheel. And he actually made $200 on the Montana State game. So he's very big now in the Big Sky action.
So I made the mistake of Googling the ESPN Big Sky weekly schedule, which is always fun to do because you get to see how low tickets are advertised as. Idaho State and Oregon, tickets as low as $5. That is not the cheapest Big Sky ticket you can get right now. Weber at Washington as low as $4. However, Idaho not lighting the world on fire. Idaho at Oregon, tickets as low as $7. But hey, my football plans are I'm going to watch whatever I can on Thursday. Hey, life news for me, guys. I started nursing school this last week, so I'm kind of getting my ass kicked figuring things out. But Thursday football season starts. We have both Sac State and Eastern on the slate, so those are games I want to pay attention to. And then, look, I'm on a road trip, so we're hey, spoiler, we're not going to do a post game for the Oregon game unless something changes. Dallas is available for a post game, but if the post game is, hey, Idaho lost by 1,000, we might not do it. If it's competitive, if it's interesting, we may do it. But I'm gonna see what I can on Thursday, and then Saturday. Other than Idaho, I'm looking through there. Honestly, I hate to. In some ways, I hate to say this. Both the Montana games, other than Idaho, are the ones that to me have the most intrigue. But that's it. Thanks for joining us for the show, guys. We had around 30 and change listeners throughout the show. The more live viewers we have, the more fun it is in the comments section. Thank you guys. You guys make the show better, so thank you. And special shout out to Vandal97 on a couple different Idaho platforms. I made a promise to you, and I just want to say I fucking came through on it, so I expect a pat on the fucking back at some point. So anyway, with that said, we're going to see you guys next week. It's always a good time when football season starts. Go Vandals.
Go Vandals.
Go Vandals.
Go Vandals.